How's it going, everybody? Wayne here. Today we have a lot of 13 box games that we'll be adding to the collection. Let's check them out. Alright, so this lot of 13 boxed N64 games cost me $112 shipped. That brings our total up to $2,704. Now, some of these are duplicates, as in boxes and manuals, but I didn't have some of the games. So I'll be completing some of the empty boxes that I had today. And the first one up is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. This was one I had the box and manual for, but no game. And this came box and game, so now I made a complete in box copy. Let's check it out. Developed by LucasArts and released in 1999 for the N64, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer was a unique and fun racing game, even if you weren't a Star Wars fan. The game was made based off a scene in the movie Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. You can choose from a large variety of pod racers and tracks. The game allows you to buy upgraded parts to enhance your ship. If you're a fan of racing games, make sure to pick this one up for the N64. And Star Wars Episode 1 Racer is game number 23 for the collection. Next up is a basketball game, Kobe Bryant and NBA Courtside. This was another one I had the box for, but I didn't have the manual or game, and now I have the manual and game. NBA Courtside featuring Kobe Bryant was released for the N64 in 1998. This is a better basketball game than the second game, NBA Courtside 2, featuring Kobe Bryant, which we already talked about. After all, this game was a $1 million seller basketball game. You can clearly see which players are yours, and you have a lot of control over the players. I'm not going to talk about this game much because there's still a ton more to collect for the system. And Kobe Bryant and NBA Courtside is game number 24 for the collection. So you probably guess we'd get our first wrestling game soon, WCW NWO Revenge. This is another one that I had only the box for, and now it's complete in box. WCW NWO Revenge was published by THQ and released for the N64 in 1998. It's arguably the best N64 wrestling game. Growing up, I didn't play wrestling games on the N64. When I collected card only, I thought they were pretty lame games because I didn't know what the controls were. Once I started collecting complete in box, I read some of the manuals and learned some of the controls, and it became pretty fun. I started slamming opponents, pinning them down, and winning matches. And here's a fun fact, WCW NWO Revenge was the best-selling wrestling game on the N64. And WCW NWO Revenge is game number 25 for the collection. Alright, next up we got F1 World Grand Prix. This is another one I had the box and manual for, but no game. This one came box and game, so it's another complete in box added to the collection. F1 World Grand Prix was published by Video System and released for the N64 in 1998. F1 World Grand Prix aimed to be a realistic F1 experience. You could select how much fuel you had and adjust the spoiler to your liking. To me, the gameplay is kind of strange and hard to get used to. The car does some sort of backfiring going around turns. Although you can hold the A button down and not do anything different, the game will make the car automatically slow down for the turns. On top of that, the car will handle different halfway through the turn. You'll be negotiating a normal turn, and all of a sudden you'll be oversteering or understeering going around the corner. This is a game I really don't recommend. F1 World Grand Prix is game number 26 in the collection. Next up we have a Tarak game, Tarak 2 Seeds of Evil. Now it always seems weird, I think I always end up with Tarak 2 before any of the Tarak games, every time I've went for the library. Tarak 2 Seeds of Evil was published by Acclaim in 1998. Tarak 2 Seeds of Evil was the second game in the Tarak series. The game has a lot of good going for it, and it has a lot of bad going for it. It's good as in the gameplay is fun and the missions keep you interested in what happens next. But the controls can take some getting used to, as you use the C buttons to control the character, R button to jump, and A button to select your weapon. You'll also find yourself stuck in dark, odd spots, not knowing the way out. The levels are dark, so you'll have to constantly switch between a weapon and a flare to light the place up. As you're changing your weapons, the dinosaurs can still attack you and do damage. On a final note, all I'll say is the girl in the beginning wins the award for the best ventriloquist I've ever seen in my life. Her lips don't even quiver once.
The Lazarus Concordance have charged me with the task of guiding you on your quest to stop the Primogen.
And Tarak 2 Seeds of Evil is game number 27 for the collection. Next up we have a platforming game, Gex 64 Enter the Gecko. Gex 64 was published by Midway Games and released for the N64 in 1998. Gex is a fun platforming game for the N64. You accomplish missions to get remotes to TVs, unlocking different missions. You can bounce on your tail, karate kick, and tail whip enemies. There are a bunch of different collectibles throughout the levels. And if you like games like Banjo-Kazooie, Earthworm Jim, or Conker's Bad Fur Day, Gex 64 may be right up your alley. Gex 64 Enter the Gecko is game number 28 for the collection. Next up we have a racing game, Automobili Lamborghini. Automobili Lamborghini was published by Titus and released for the N64 in 1997. Automobili Lamborghini is a supercar racing game. The game allows 4-player racing. I found the graphics in the game to be decent, but the controls are ultra sensitive. I also find the game and tracks are rather boring. They did improve on this game at a later point, but it only came out in Japan calling the game Super Speed Race 64. Perhaps I should find a copy of that and give it a try. Automobili Lamborghini is game number 29 for the collection. Next up is Xtreme G. Xtreme G is another game published by Acclaim and released for the N64 in 1997. We've already covered Xtreme G2 and I can tell you they made some extreme improvements between the two games. Like Xtreme G2, Xtreme G is a super fast-paced plasma bike racing game. The controls are the same as in the second game, being that you use the Z button to accelerate and the A button to fire. I'll spare you the bad joke on this one. Although Xtreme G isn't my cup of tea, I do like the variety of options it gives you in vehicles and game modes. And Xtreme G puts us up to 30 games in the collection. Next up is a skateboarding game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Tony Hawk Pro Skater was published by Activision and released in North America in 1999. Tony Hawk Pro Skater is a skateboarding game for the N64, as well as many other consoles. I remember renting this game and being completely mind-blown how awesome it was. It was incredible how many different tricks you could do. I mostly played in the free mode to see how many points I could rack up and how many different moves I could do. And it was fun to challenge a friend and see who could get the most points. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is game number 31 in the collection. Next up we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 released the year after Tony Hawk's Pro Skater in 2000. Tony Hawk 2 took everything the first game did and made it better. The graphics, music, gameplay were all greatly enhanced. Not to mention you could build your own park. How cool was it that you could design your own custom skate park? For friends that don't collect, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is one of the games that many bring up having fond memories of. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is game number 32 in the collection. Next up we have an anti-gravity racing game, Wipeout 64. Wipeout 64 was published by Midway Games and released for the N64 in 1998. Wipeout is a game I remember buying at Big Lots. I walked into the store and they had stacks and stacks of Wipeout, Polaris Snowcross, and All-Star Baseball 99. They were all $10 each, brand new. When I brought it home and tested it, I thought it was a mediocre game, but it was highly addictive. It's like opening a box of a funky tasting cracker. You're not sure if you really like the taste, but you just eat the whole box anyway. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I like the game Wipeout 64, and I would play Wipeout over Xtreme G. This game is fast-paced, the tracks are fun, and I like all the weapon upgrades you can get. And Wipeout puts us at 33 games for the N64 Complete in Box library. And the last two games in the lot were duplicates. Surprisingly, Brunswick Super Pro Bowling is one of them. This came as a boxing game only, and everything I had in mind was in better condition. So this one I'm just going to be selling off as is. Next up we have another duplicate, San Francisco Rush Extreme Racing. This came complete in box, and again everything I had already was in better condition. So I'll just be selling this one as is, complete in box. And when I do sell them, I'll be taking that price off the counter. Alright, so that's the lot of 13 games for the N64 library. And if you're not already, please subscribe. I'll be collecting the entire complete in box N64 library right here on this show. And make sure to leave a thumbs up if you've ever eaten a box of crackers you weren't sure if you liked. Until next time, I'm Wayne, and thanks for watching.